leather jacket.
I don't actually support comics.
He's Star-Lord.
He does it for me.
You won't hear me say that very often, but I don't.
Okay.
But it's a fun time.
But do you support imperialism?
No.
Okay, just making sure. That's good. You were quick with that one, saying
I
no.
don't
So.
support comics. I mean, like, I don't hate comics, but like, man, it's just man.
In theory, communism is amazing, but in actuality,
every form of economic
Theory and practice are two.
Yeah, in theory, every form of government and economics is perfect.
Any, like, obviously I said, there's stuff in the study guide that we can always talk about and whatnot, but are there, like, questions or things that, we need to start with? I know it can be a confusing book to kind of follow along with, and you sometimes have to ask yourself later, who's talking again?
Yeah.
Not like Marlowe's talking, but, from a character standpoint, conversation and all those things. Are there any details that coming in, we need to hash out before getting into stuff? Okay.
I don't know. If there's any details that need hashed out, I probably just don't know them. So maybe we'll be able to.
Well, you came up with 5 to put on the quiz, so I assume that's at least a good start with it.
It was
The whole thing's like a dream, really. It's just like kind of
It's real
like
fun.
really fake.
Yeah, and with that, and I don't want to use this as the excuse thing. Well, here, tell you what. Let's and not because it's a question that's on your study guide, but one of the things that we were taking a look at last week was the whole thing here with the structure of the frame tale. Why you would have Marlowe's story, which is this large flashback here that we were making reference to, where 99% of it's about Marlowe. But then you have this guy here on the Thames River. Put a question mark by his name last Wednesday when we were talking about it as to, okay, is there a valid reason or purpose for it structurally to be set up the way that it is? Any ideas now that we've kind of looked at the whole entire thing, or at least read the whole entire thing, where you go, okay, that makes sense why there would be that other narrator, or would the story work just as well, or just as poorly in the eyes of some of you, if it was Marlowe telling the story from start to finish? He has the don't call anyone. So like I cut that before tile. But Emma's hand went up, so you got to say.
Would Marlo be able to like do the thing he was doing, like going back and forth if he was telling the story?
Like having the whole flashback thing?
Well, like when he was talking about Kurtz before he actually met.
Like the passage that you did for the TWA. It would probably be harder to do. Because when we tell a story, sometimes we'll jump parts, and then I'll get to that part later. As you get to it. If it were him, just one day, I went on a steamer. It probably would be more difficult to do that part. So it does allow for time to be manipulated a little bit in some ways. I mean, Kurtz does show up. We saw him. I don't know if that description of Kurtz that was in part 2. If it would naturally work itself anywhere in the timeline that Kurtz is actually alive in the story. Maybe by having the narrator it gives us some flexibility to do those things. Anything else? I think that's a good point. I think the best way to maybe see some aspects of it is to look at the last page of the book. You didn't have a whole lot to say about it.
no.
No.
I don't know if I get it.
Fair enough. Last paragraph, because you got 158, which only has like 3 1/4 lines to it. The last paragraph starts on page 157. So you have his conversation with the intended, going on at 157. He said your name. I knew it. He was that kind of man. I lied. Last paragraph. Marlowe ceased and sat apart. So the narrator's back. Indistinct and silent, in the pose of a meditating Buddha. Nobody moved for a time. We have lost the first of the ebb, said the director suddenly. I raised my head. The offing was barred by a black bank of clouds, and the tranquil waterway leading to the uttermost ends of the earth flowed somber under an overcast sky, seemed to lead into the heart of immense darkness. If you're taking a look at the title itself, you know, initial reactions, what are we looking at as possibilities as to what's meant by heart of darkness? I mean, there's multiple things you could look at. Okay. So, Congo, in the sense that it's in the heart of dark continent, Africa. That could be kind of a stereotypical racist viewpoint of it being dark continent. Also, Marlowe, though, makes the reference that he likes to go places that are kind of unexplored and unknown, so if not a whole lot is known about it, it's dark. What's his favorite places on the map? He likes all the blank spaces and things like that. What else? Heart of darkness. Other possibilities, because there's certainly more than just one. So like Kurtz's soul. He just likes to decorate for Halloween, Emma, all year round.
With severed heads.
The only part that's really creepy about the severed heads would be, which way are they facing?
Towards the station.
Towards, so, yeah, you get up in the morning. Hi guys.
Like, do you think they would be facing like?
All except one. All except one.
Do you think they'd all be like facing away? So like,
Nice.
so like people would like, say they're like traveling by and they see them like, ooh, I don't want to go in there. They're gonna do that to my head.
Well, and that's even what Marlowe even kind of says, that, you know, oh, they're not ornamental knobs. They're their eyes are closed and kind of shriveled and all that kind of stuff. So it does kind of make it a little bit more mysterious as to what's there. But yeah, on the flip side of that, it's, you know, when Kurtz comes out for a gander, I remember
Why
you.
are they like turning towards the station?
Because he has a heart of darkness. Dean, did you have another?
Oh, can I go to the restroom?
How do you come up with a meaning for heart of darkness? C247.
I mean, I was just gonna say Chris is like art. Like,
Okay. We'll talk more when you come in. Anything else?
By the end of the book, it seems like it's implying that, like, because they're on the Thames River, right? So, like, where they're going is the heart of darkness.
So you have that tranquil waterway that he's describing, which we know is the Thames. Actually, if we were in London, it's the River Thames, or Thames River, both ways kind of go. But that tranquil waterway seems like it's leading to the heart of an immense darkness. Well, it would be leading into London, or at least at the very least, it would be going into Europe, where you seem to kind of have a shift in what the narrator would be saying, because that would imply that for him, after listening to Marlowe's story, what's Heart of Darkness, or at least what is part of Heart of Darkness, not to say it supersedes these things, but that London and Europe has kind of become a heart of darkness. How, and we sat down and we read the first couple pages, you know, last Wednesday. What was the description that we came up with, that the narrator had towards the river and like just towards England in general? Very kind of almost nostalgic. Remember referencing Sir Francis Drake, John Franklin, explorers, talked about the good service that the waterway has done to the country and all that stuff. And Marlowe's first words were, and this too has been one of the darker places of the earth. So when you go back to this whole frame tale, one of the aspects that it does, in addition to, you know, Emma's point about it gives Conrad and Marlowe some flexibility, is you have your narrator at the beginning, you have your narrator at the end. There does seem to be a little bit of a shift taking place from first narrator to second narrator. This river's awesome. I love it when we have the regatta. I can see fireworks and all that stuff. And the waterway was going into the heart of an immense darkness. There's a change, you know, the word choice, the tone, all that kind of stuff. You're going from venerating the river to not condemning it, but at least the place that it's headed to doesn't seem to be quite so nice anymore. Different city, but how does Brussels characterized, because again, he doesn't say Brussels in the book, but how does it kind of get characterized? What was the two-word phrase? The city always reminded me of that S-word thing of a whited sepulcher, the tomb, the monument, what's inside of it, death, dust, bones, all that kind of stuff. So, Grant was talking about it is vague. It's very vague. I mean, you only get 3 character names. You get Marlowe, you get Kurtz, and, I mean, so far as names, the only other name you get is the captain who went nuts. Who he replaces, Freslin, who got in the fight about the hens. Otherwise, you don't have any specific, like, the intended is not the name. Hello, intended. My name's Kurtz.
I
So, lawyer.
Wait, I thought that was his mistress.
I'm sorry?
I thought, didn't they say like in the book, like in the beginning of Country, that was his mistress, not like his fiance?
Well, so there's two, you have 2 different characters. There's the mistress, who is in the Congo. And some of you might have included descriptions of the mistress wearing lots of jewelry, ivory, stuff like that for part 3. And then there's the intended, there's his fiance that would be in Europe. So you have Kurtz, in the Congo life versus Kurtz in, quote unquote, civilized Europe. But we'll get back to that point. But Grant was talking about, it is very general, it is very vague. It certainly is. Because at the end, it seems to be a pretty negative, damning viewpoint of Europe in general and imperialism, I kind of feel like that's where Conrad is careful with the words that he chooses or the words that he doesn't choose to use so that he's not, kind of coming out and incriminating himself. Because it would certainly be known that he was a sailor, that he was a captain. Hey, you worked for Leopold, that guy up in Belgium. Brussels is a terrible city. It's run by evil people. That's not something that he probably wants to have his name attached to. It's one thing to say you can put 2 and 2 together, but it's another thing to come out and simply go, "That's an evil man." Imperialism is bad. But at the same time, Conrad still does have viewpoints of the era which are not good. You can certainly make the case that there's racist thoughts and whatnot presented throughout the course of the book, and I don't want to simply say he's a product of his times. Those viewpoints certainly still do come across, but I think he's maybe more aware than some others are of what's going on in the Congo. But, Nina, one of the words that we focused on when we were talking about the passage, the TWA passage, which I think we mentioned it, and he uses it quite a bit in part 3 as well. He'll talk about Kurtz, but then he'll also put a little descriptor in front of him. There's also Kurtz, but there's also the quote-unquote original Kurtz. So the original Kurtz is the musician. The original Kurtz is the sophisticated, debonair, fiance, has a fiance back home kind of thing. And then there's the Kurtz in the jungle, who has been corrupted, whose humanity has kind of been stripped away. And so not only do you have a shift within the narrator, but you also have a shift into Kurtz where, originally he might have had good viewpoints or at least a positive outlook, but what has happened by his time being in the jungle, I mean, it's gotten to the point where he simply just says, exterminate the brutes. So certainly a change has happened in Kurtz. So, he's kind of falling more into his vices as opposed to the morality that would exist, should exist. Which I think does beg an obvious question concerning Marlowe. If Kurtz is so horrible, how does Marlowe seem to look at Kurtz? Does he look at Kurtz as that's a despicable human being? That's a really cool guy?
At first he was kind of like disgusted with what he saw, the borders and what Kurtz did, and then by the end, he admired Kurtz.
Or
after he died.
at the very least, he's at least sympathetic to him. I mean, if Kurtz was such a dirtbag, listen here, lady. I know you think he was a good guy. He had heads on his house. It's a good thing he didn't get married. Your wall decorations wouldn't have been exactly what you were hoping for. And in some ways, least in 2018, I think we like to tell people bad things about, things that they thought were good. We kind of like to have the world come crashing down. He has the opportunity to go, he's a dirtbag. You're better off than you could have been. He doesn't give the reports away to the company, as many as he could. He rips out the exterminate all the brutes comment so that doesn't get seen. So he certainly does a lot of things to protect Kurtz. So you kind of have this, why have a sympathetic point of view toward Kurtz? Why not go, I have met the incarnate of evil, and I have come out alive. He's dead. The horror, the horror.
Was he also sympathetic after Kurtz died?
Well, I mean, he doesn't know him all that long. I mean, it's literally like 12 pages. Kurtz tries to escape, and, he does threaten to strangle him for, like, I'll kill you right here, but brings him back. But he carries him like a baby. He picks up Kurtz, not that he's really 7 feet long, but he looks like he's 7 feet long and frail and bones and all that stuff. He does bring him back. So it would seem that there's at least maybe a little sympathy there, or we're going to, come hell or high water, you're going home with us. There's certainly an aura of mystery about him. I have to meet this guy. I've heard so much about him. This communist-loving, leather jacket-wearing kid who's in 10th grade. He signed up for AP. I just gotta meet him. What's he really like? And then when he does meet him, it's not all that it was cracked up to be. Sympathy for him. You can kind of go with that because he doesn't know what he's going to be sympathetic for prior to meeting. Why be sympathetic? I mean, you also compound it with the fact that because of Marlowe's story, you get the sense that he is causing the narrator to change his viewpoints, where now, okay, it's not just that Heart of Darkness could be the Congo, it's not just that Heart of Darkness could be Kurtz's soul, it's not that Heart of Darkness could simply just be London or Europe, but it also could be the institution, the actions that they are taking with imperialism that's bringing pain, death, despair to all the people within Africa, at least within the Congo at this point. But there's still something remarkable about him.
Was it his way, like he persevered through like how he was sick? 'Cause Marlowe was actually got sick, right? And he said that he was kind of talking about how Kurt was like able to talk and push through. And he still had his goals set even though he was very ill and sick.
And this is happening on page 148, which is probably where we'll end up talking about it tomorrow, because I think that detail of after Kurtz has died, Marlowe almost dies as well. It does kind of stick by some people. So let's take a look at that tomorrow when we come in. We'll take a look at page 148 after book with you. We'll pick up there and see what happens.
How do you feel about, I didn't do it this time, but I did it with the philosophy before, like reading the section, reading the book, and then also reading